paragraph itself?
Well, just about the positive versus negative and the meanings in operant conditioning.
Oh. It's math instead of feelings. I was like, I need a stronger cue. What am I supposed to say?
Yeah, so as you can see on the infographic that you guys have in your hands, this has some nice examples. One example of just leashes. Operant conditioning, and that's the thing you'll learn, is literally happening all the time. So it can take a while for you to kind of start thinking about what behavior is being learned in this moment. I think sometimes we think, okay, I'm going to take a dog out and do a dog training session. But realistically, you're working with that dog from the moment they leave their kennel till you get into the training session, till you do whatever, the play group, the whatever, and you're bringing them back. They're learning that whole time. So in one context of one example, we have leashing, in which we can talk about, but it'd be nice for you for the rest of today to go around thinking about what kind of operant behavior is happening with the animal I'm working with. So in this specific example, positive reinforcement, so we want to reward the dog for walking on a loose leash. What we're going to do is go ahead and give the dog a treat when the leash is slack. So we're adding something positive for the dog, a reinforcement, right? We're adding a reinforcement which will likely increase that behavior for that dog. Negative punishment.
Sounds bad, it's not.
It's not terrible. It means that we're removing something to decrease behavior. So in this example, the dog is pulling at the leash. So the reinforcement for that dog is moving forward. We're removing the forward movement by stopping, and that dog stops pulling, and then we move forward again. So we're decreasing the behavior of the pulling by removing the reinforcement of going forward. Does that make sense? Mm-hmm. Cool. Positive punishment means that we're adding something to decrease a behavior. The important thing to know about punishment is that it doesn't actually really teach the dog how to do anything. It just stops the dog from doing what it's doing in that moment. So if we have a dog who's pulling on leash or lunging at another dog because they are upset, and we correct that behavior, we may stop the lunging, but we may not be touching anywhere near that emotional response because we're not actually teaching the dog to do anything different. And if the dog finds the leash correction aversive and scary, they may actually build an association between the correction and the other dog. So we always want to...
We should define aversive.
Yes.
An aversive, and the dog or the animal, the learner, gets to decide what is aversive to them. Aversive means something the dog doesn't like. So when we're talking about punishment in a training session, that can be a leash correction, it can be a shaker can, it can be a pet corrector, it can be a yelling or some other noise. And for some dogs, it can be as simple as you leaving the room. So like a dog with separation anxiety, I put you in your kennel and I walk away. That's really aversive to that dog, where the dog next to it, I put you in your kennel, he might go lay on his bed. Mm-hmm. So the dog decides what's aversive, and every dog is different. I just wanted to define that.
Oh, thank you. Yeah. So in positive punishment, we're basically trying to stop a behavior, but we're not giving the dog any other feedback what to do differently. And again, if it's something that we're applying is aversive enough to the dog to punish it, it means that we're probably not building trust and we're not forming a positive emotional response. And that's where classical and operant work together. Negative reinforcement is the most confusing one to literally everybody, even new dog trainers. Negative reinforcement means that you have something that you're applying to the dog to stop a behavior, and you're removing it to get more behavior. I like to compare this to like a beeping seatbelt. Like when you get in your car and your seatbelt's like ping, 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 and you're like, this is really annoying, oh my god. And so the goal of that is that when you put your seatbelt in, the pinging stops, right? So it has to be something annoying for it to work. And so when you're working with dogs, I don't know, give me a good example of like a negative reinforcement scenario.
In sheltering, or can I just use any?
Because sheltering would be good, but
because I go automatically to like the concept of a prong collar. So you're walking a dog in a prong collar. The purpose of the prong collar is to prevent or stop in its tracks that pulling. So your dog's walking on a prong collar, you apply the correction, and many trainers will have you hold the correction with a prong collar, a slip lead, a choke chain, and what you're doing is you're holding that correction until the dog stops the behavior of pulling. So it's not just like this quick jerk, it's a full on, I'm holding this pressure, it's very uncomfortable and scary for you. When you stop pulling forward, that goes away, and I give you slack, the punishment stops. So,
So the behaviors increased, this is anecdotal, but increased out of kind of coercion, right? You wouldn't have actively chosen to stop pulling. You wouldn't have actually chosen to put on your seatbelt. Well, I mean, if you're smart, maybe. But for those of us who are not, and drive out of the driveway and get halfway down the road and you're like, I'm not doing it out of choice. I'm doing it because I'm trying to get rid of something annoying to myself. So when it comes to positive punishment and both negative reinforcement, there's something that is either fearful